Marcus Chun wiped the grease from his hands with a worn cloth as he stepped out of the maintenance bay aboard the orbital station Meridian 7. The artificial gravity felt lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel like a small bounce. He had been working as a freelance engineer on the Outer Rim stations for 3 years now, fixing everything from life support systems to hyperspace drives. The work paid well, and, more importantly, it kept him far from the corporate politics of the inner systems. The comm panel on his workbench crackled to life, interrupting his thoughts about dinner. Station Commander Rivera's voice echoed through the small workshop. "Chun, we've got an emergency docking request. Alien vessel heavily damaged. They're requesting immediate technical assistance." Marcus set down his tools and activated the comm. "What kind of alien vessel? And what's their tech level?" "Unknown species. The ship appears to be more advanced than anything we've seen, but their communication is broken. They managed to transmit basic distress codes. Bay 7 is being cleared for them now." Marcus grabbed his emergency toolkit, a collection of universal adapters, diagnostic equipment, and repair materials he had gathered over years of working with different alien technologies. The diversity of species in this sector meant that an engineer never knew what kind of technology they might encounter. Some aliens used crystalline power sources, others relied on exotic matter manipulation, and a few species had technology so advanced it seemed like magic. The walk to Bay 7 took him through the station's main corridor, where various species mingled in the neutral trading post atmosphere. A group of tall, insectoid Kithra chittered as they examined human-made electronics. Near them, a pair of blue-skinned Voltani traders argued loudly in their melodic language about shipping rates. Marcus nodded to a few familiar faces as he passed, including Dr. Sarah Kim, the station's xenobiologist, who was heading in the same direction. "Heard about the emergency docking," she said, falling into step beside him. "Any idea what we're dealing with?" Commander Rivera said unknown species with advanced tech. "Could be interesting." Marcus adjusted his toolkit strap. "You coming to check on the crew?" "Medical protocols. If they need technical help, they might need biological help too." She paused at an intersection. "I'll grab some universal medical supplies and meet you there." Bay 7 was a large docking facility designed to accommodate ships of various sizes and configurations. As Marcus entered the control room overlooking the bay, he saw the alien vessel for the first time. The ship was unlike anything he had encountered before. Its hull seemed to be made of a dark material that shifted and flowed like liquid metal, but held a solid, defined shape. The design was organic, with curved surfaces and flowing lines that made it look more grown than built. Damage was evident across its surface, with several sections showing scorched marks and what appeared to be hull breaches. The ship was approximately 200 meters long, with a sleek profile that suggested it was built for speed. Strange protrusions along its length might have been weapon systems or sensor arrays. Most striking were the patterns of light that pulsed slowly along the hull, like a heartbeat made visible. The patterns seemed to be flickering irregularly in some areas, which Marcus guessed indicated damaged systems. Station Controller Williams looked up from his console. "They just finished docking. Atmosphere is sealed, but we're reading massive system failures throughout their ship. Power levels are dropping steadily." "Any communication?" "They managed to transmit a basic message in standard trade language about an hour ago. Said they needed an engineer and that time was critical. Haven't heard anything since then." Marcus studied the readouts on Williams' screens. The ship's energy signature was unlike anything in the database, but the patterns suggested some kind of distributed power system. Multiple small failures seemed to be cascading into larger problems. "I'm going aboard. Keep monitoring and let me know if anything changes." The docking tube connected smoothly to what appeared to be an airlock on the alien vessel. Marcus ran a quick atmospheric check and found the air was breathable, though with a slightly higher oxygen content than standard. He sealed his helmet and activated his suit's environmental systems anyway. Working on an unknown alien ship with failing systems was not the time to take chances. The airlock cycled with a soft hiss, and Marcus stepped onto the alien vessel. The interior was as organic-looking as the exterior, with curved walls that seemed to glow with a soft, warm light. The surfaces felt smooth under his gloved hands, almost like polished stone, but with a warmth that suggested living tissue. The corridors were wider than necessary for humans, with a ceiling that arched overhead in an aesthetically pleasing curve. Following the sound of what might have been voices, Marcus made his way deeper into the ship. The internal lighting was failing in several areas, creating patches of darkness that his helmet's lights cut through. He passed what appeared to be crew quarters, with furniture that looked more like sculptural art than functional items. Everything was designed with flowing, organic lines that suggested the ship's builders had a very different aesthetic sense than humans. The voices grew louder as he approached what seemed to be the ship's central area. Marcus turned a corner and stopped short at his first sight of the ship's inhabitants. 3 aliens stood around what was obviously a control console, though it looked more like a living tree than any technology Marcus recognized. The aliens themselves were humanoid in basic shape, but clearly not human. They were tall, perhaps 7 feet in height, with pale blue skin that seemed to have a subtle luminescent quality. Their faces were elegantly proportioned, with large eyes that held flecks of silver, and their hair appeared to be made of fine, fiber-optic strands that glowed softly. They wore clothing that seemed to be grown rather than woven, with patterns that shifted and moved like living things. One of the aliens, apparently female based on body shape and facial features, noticed Marcus first. She said something in a musical language to her companions, then approached him with obvious caution. Her large eyes studied his environmental suit with what seemed like curiosity rather than fear. "Human engineer?" she asked in accented but clear standard trade language. "Yes, I'm Marcus Chen. I received your distress call. What's the nature of your emergency?" The alien's expression showed relief mixed with desperation. "I am Lyralii of the ship Whisperwind. Our vessel was attacked by raiders 3 systems away. We escaped, but our bioneural networks are failing. Without repair, we will lose life support within 6 hours." Marcus looked around at the organic-looking technology. "Bioneural networks? Your ship is partially alive. Our technology integrates biological and mechanical systems. The raiders used some kind of disruption weapon that damaged the neural pathways throughout the ship. Our repair protocols cannot compensate for this type of damage." Lyralii gestured toward the tree-like console, where the other 2 aliens worked frantically. "We heard that human engineers are skilled with diverse technologies. We hoped. I'll do what I can. Can you show me your ship's technical specifications?" Lyralii led him to what appeared to be a diagnostic station. As they walked, Marcus noted more details about the ship's condition. The organic walls showed stress patterns, like a living creature in pain. The flowing lights that provided illumination were definitely dimming, and in several places they had gone dark entirely. The air itself seemed to carry a subtle scent of ozone and something that might have been the alien equivalent of sweat or stress pheromones. At the diagnostic station, Lyralii placed her hand on a smooth surface, and the wall in front of them came alive with displays that were part visual, part tactile, and part something else entirely. Patterns of light flowed like rivers, showing the ship's systems in a way that was both beautiful and functional. Marcus had seen many different types of displays, but nothing quite like this. "This shows our ship's neural network," Lyralii explained. "The red areas indicate damaged or dead neural pathways. As you can see, the damage is spreading." Marcus studied the display, trying to understand the patterns. The ship's systems were indeed integrated in a way he had never encountered. Rather than discrete components connected by cables or wireless links, everything seemed to be part of a single, vast organism. Damage in one area was affecting systems throughout the ship as the neural network tried to compensate. "What kind of disruption weapon did they use?" "We believe it was a neural scrambler, designed to incapacitate ships like ours. It sends false signals through bioneural networks, causing them to attack themselves." Lyralii's expression grew pained. "It is a particularly cruel weapon, as it turns our own technology against us." Marcus nodded grimly. He had heard rumors of such weapons being developed by some of the more ruthless pirate organizations. The fact that someone was actually using them represented a new level of technological terrorism. "I need to understand how your bioneural networks function before I can help repair them. Can you explain the basic principles?" Over the next hour, Lyralii walked Marcus through her ship's technology. The Whisperwind was indeed a hybrid biological and mechanical organism. The neural networks were living tissue that had been engineered to interface directly with mechanical systems. The ship could heal itself from minor damage, adapt to new situations, and even learn from experience. It was far more advanced than anything humans had developed, but that advancement came with vulnerabilities. The neural scrambler had exploited those vulnerabilities, sending signals that caused the bioneural networks to misinterpret their own status readings. The ship's healing systems were actually making the damage worse, trying to fix systems that weren't broken while ignoring real problems. It was like a biological autoimmune response, but affecting technology. The solution isn't to repair the damage, Marcus realized. It's to reset the neural networks so they can assess their actual status correctly. Lyraliai's eyes widened with hope. Yes, that would work, but we do not know how to perform such a reset without destroying the networks entirely. The process requires precise timing and technical knowledge we do not possess. Marcus examined the diagnostic display again, this time looking for patterns he recognized from his work with other types of distributed systems. While the technology was biological rather than purely mechanical, the principles of network management still applied. He began to see possibilities. I think I can help, but I'll need to interface my equipment with your systems. That might be dangerous for both our technologies. We will trust your expertise, Lyraliai said immediately. Without your help, we will certainly die. With it, we have hope. Marcus spent the next 2 hours analyzing the ship's neural network architecture while Lyraliai served as translator and guide. The other 2 aliens, introduced as Valen and Korath, continued working on emergency systems to buy them more time. The ship's condition continued to deteriorate, with life support efficiency dropping and several secondary systems failing entirely. Working with alien bioneural technology required Marcus to approach problems from entirely new angles. His standard diagnostic tools could interface with the ship systems, but interpreting the data required a combination of engineering knowledge and intuitive leaps. The neural networks operated on principles that were part electrical engineering, part biology, and part something that didn't translate well into human concepts. As he worked, Marcus began to appreciate the elegance of the alien technology. The bioneural networks weren't just more advanced than human systems. They represented a completely different philosophy of engineering. Instead of building machines that performed specific functions, the aliens had created semi-living systems that could adapt and evolve. It was beautiful in its complexity. The breakthrough came when Marcus realized that the neural scrambler hadn't just damaged the networks. It had created false memories in the biological components. The ship's living systems remembered being damaged in ways that had never actually happened, and they were responding to those false memories. The solution was to create new, accurate memories that would overwrite the false ones. I need to create a memory reset pulse, Marcus explained to Lyraliai. It will require precise timing and calibration, and there's a risk that we could damage the networks permanently if we get it wrong. Lyraliai consulted with her crewmates in their musical language before responding. We understand the risk. Please proceed. Marcus connected his equipment to the ship systems, using adapters and interfaces he had never expected to employ in quite this way. The process was like performing surgery on a patient whose anatomy was completely foreign, guided only by general principles and careful observation. The reset pulse had to be carefully calibrated to the specific frequency of the ship's neural networks. Too weak, and it wouldn't clear the false memories. Too strong, and it could erase the network's essential functions. Marcus made minute adjustments while monitoring the ship's responses, watching for the subtle changes that would indicate success or failure. When he finally triggered the reset pulse, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The organic walls of the ship seemed to shudder, and the flowing lights that provided illumination flickered wildly. For a moment, Marcus thought he had made a terrible mistake. Then, the pattern stabilized, and the diagnostic display showed the neural networks beginning to assess their actual status correctly. It's working, Lyraliai breathed, her voice filled with wonder and relief. The ship's healing systems began to function properly for the first time since the attack. Damaged pathways that had been ignored were identified and marked for repair. Systems that had been unnecessarily stressed were allowed to return to normal function. The whisper wind was beginning to heal itself. Marcus monitored the process for another hour, making minor adjustments and ensuring that the reset was taking hold throughout the ship's neural network. The improvement was steady and encouraging. Life support efficiency climbed back to normal levels, secondary systems came back online, and the ship's overall condition stabilized. Your expertise has saved us, Lyraliai said as Marcus finally disconnected his equipment. We are deeply grateful for your help. I'm glad I could help. Your technology is fascinating. I've learned more in the past few hours than I have in months of working with conventional systems. Lyralii smiled, an expression that transformed her alien features in a way that was both foreign and somehow familiar. We would be honored if you would accept our gratitude in a more tangible form. What would be appropriate compensation for saving our lives? Marcus considered Lyralii's question about compensation. In his experience, most alien species offered payment in credits or trade goods, but something about her tone suggested she had something else in mind. The way her silver-flecked eyes studied his face indicated this was more than a simple business transaction. Standard engineering rates would be fine, Marcus replied diplomatically. I'm just glad your ship is functioning again. Lyralii exchanged glances with her crewmates, who had been listening to the conversation while continuing to monitor the ship's recovery. Valen, who appeared to be the ship's navigator based on his interaction with the holographic displays, spoke in their musical language. Karath, whose role seemed to be related to the ship's bioneural maintenance, added something that sounded like agreement. My companions and I have discussed this during your repairs, Lyralii said. What you have done goes far beyond the normal exchange of services. You saved not only our lives, but our ship, which is precious to us in ways that may be difficult for your species to understand. Marcus nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what she was getting at. The Whisperwind is clearly an advanced and beautiful vessel. I can understand being attached to it. You understand more than you realize, Lyralii smiled. Among our people, the Kelthani, ships like the Whisperwind are not merely tools or possessions. They are partners, companions grown and trained over decades to work in harmony with their crews. To lose such a ship would be like losing a family member. The concept was foreign to Marcus, but he could see the emotional truth in Lyralii's expression. Human ships were tools, even when crews became attached to them. The idea of a truly living ship, one that was actually a partner rather than a possession, opened up new ways of thinking about the relationship between technology and consciousness. In recognition of what you have done, Lyralii continued, we would like to offer you something more valuable than credits. We would like to offer you knowledge. Before Marcus could respond, the ship's communication system activated with a soft chime. The voice of Station Controller Williams filled the chamber. Whisperwind, this is Meridian 7 Control. We're detecting incoming ships on long-range sensors. Configuration suggests raiders. Estimated arrival in 4 hours. Lyralii's expression immediately shifted from gratitude to concern. She moved to what Marcus now recognized as a communication console and responded, Meridian 7, this is Whisperwind. We believe these may be the same raiders who attacked us. They may be tracking us. Marcus felt a chill of apprehension. Raider attacks on orbital stations were rare but not unheard of, especially in the outer rim sectors where military patrols were infrequent. Meridian 7 had defensive systems, but they were designed to discourage casual pirates, not handle a determined assault by well-equipped raiders. How many ships? Lyralii asked. Sensors show 5 vessels, medium-sized, heavily armed. They're not responding to standard hailing frequencies. Marcus activated his comm unit. Williams, this is Chun. What's the station's defensive status? Not good for this kind of threat, Marcus. We've got point defense systems and some light weapons, but nothing that could handle 5 raider ships if they're serious about attacking. Lyralii turned to Marcus. This is our fault. They followed us here. We cannot allow the people of this station to suffer for our presence. It's not your fault, Marcus replied firmly. Pirates and raiders make their own choices. The question is what we can do about it now. Valen spoke from his position at the navigation console, his voice urgent. Karath added something that sounded like technical specifications. Lyralii listened, then translated. My companions suggest that the Whisperwind systems are not yet fully recovered, but we are capable of flight. We could leave the station and try to draw the raiders away. Marcus shook his head. With your ship still healing, you'd be easy prey. Besides, there's no guarantee they'd follow you instead of attacking the station anyway. Then, what do you suggest? Marcus thought quickly. The station had maybe 3,000 people aboard, including families and civilians who had no way to defend themselves. The approaching raiders clearly outgunned anything Meridian 7 could muster. But the Whisperwind represented a technological advantage that might tip the balance. What are your ship's combat capabilities? Marcus asked. Normally quite formidable, Lyralii admitted. But with our bioneural networks still recovering, our weapons and defensive systems are operating at perhaps 60% efficiency. That might still be enough if we use them strategically. Marcus moved to look at the diagnostic displays showing the ship's status. How long until your systems are fully recovered? At current healing rates, perhaps 12 hours. We don't have 12 hours. Can the healing process be accelerated? Lyralii consulted with her crewmates again before answering. Yes, but it would require outside assistance. Someone would need to manually guide the bioneural networks through the recovery process, essentially serving as a temporary external mind to help coordinate the healing. Marcus understood immediately. You need someone to interface directly with your ship's consciousness. Yes, though the process carries risks. The person providing assistance would need to maintain mental contact with the ship's neural network for several hours. If something went wrong, they could suffer permanent neural damage or even death. The implications were staggering. Lyralii was suggesting that Marcus could literally join his mind with the ship's bioneural network, guiding its recovery from within. It was far beyond anything he had ever attempted, and the risks were enormous. But if it worked, the Whisperwind could be restored to full capability in time to help defend the station. What would the process involve? Marcus asked. Lyralii led him to a section of the ship he hadn't seen before. The chamber was circular, with walls that pulsed gently with the same living light as the rest of the vessel. In the center was what looked like a meditation pool filled with a luminescent fluid. Organic tendrils hung from the ceiling, swaying slightly as if moved by an unfelt breeze. This is our neural interface chamber, Lyralii explained. Normally, only Kelthani who have trained for years can safely use it. The process requires the user to temporarily merge their consciousness with the ship's neural network, guiding its thoughts and healing processes. Marcus examined the chamber with fascination and growing apprehension. And you think a human could do this? We believe so. Your neural patterns are similar enough to ours that the interface should work, and your technical knowledge would help guide the ship's recovery. But I must be honest about the dangers. If your mind becomes too deeply integrated with the ship's network, you might not be able to separate yourself. You could become permanently part of the ship's consciousness. The stakes couldn't be higher. If the raiders destroyed Meridian 7, thousands of innocent people would die. If Marcus failed in the neural interface process, he might die or lose his individual identity forever. But if he succeeded, the station might have a fighting chance. How long do I have to decide? The raiders will arrive in less than 4 hours. The interface process would take approximately 3 hours to complete. If we are going to attempt this, we need to begin soon. Marcus looked around the chamber, trying to imagine what it would be like to have his consciousness merged with an alien bioneural network. The technical challenges were only part of it. The psychological and philosophical implications were staggering. What would it be like to think with a mind that was part machine, part biological organism, and part something else entirely? There's something else you should know, Lyralii said quietly. If the interface is successful, you will gain access to knowledge that no human has ever possessed. Our ship carries information about technologies, star charts, and scientific discoveries that your species has not yet achieved. That knowledge would become part of you permanently. The offer was almost beyond comprehension. Access to advanced alien technology and scientific knowledge could advance human civilization by centuries. But it came with the very real risk of losing his humanity in the process. Marcus activated his comm unit. Williams, what's the current situation with those incoming ships? Still approaching at a steady pace. We've sent out distress calls, but the nearest patrol ships are at least 6 hours away. We're on our own for this one. What about civilian evacuation? We're loading the emergency pods, but we can't evacuate everyone in time. And, frankly, if they're determined to attack, evacuation pods won't be much safer than the station. Marcus closed the comm channel and looked at Lyralii. If I do this, what guarantee do I have that it will work? None, she replied honestly. The interface between human and Kelthani neural patterns has never been attempted. Our ship's bioneural network might reject your consciousness entirely, or the integration might cause unpredictable effects. But you have shown remarkable aptitude for understanding our technology, and Our ship has already accepted your presence during the repair process. Marcus thought about the 3,000 people aboard Meridian 7, including Dr. Kim and the other colleagues he had worked with for years. He thought about the families with children, the traders just trying to make a living, and all the others who would suffer if the raiders succeeded. The choice seemed obvious despite the risks. What do I need to do? Lyraliai's expression showed both admiration and concern. Are you certain? Once the process begins, there will be no way to reverse it until completion. I'm certain. Lyraliai gestured toward the luminescent pool. You will need to remove your clothing and environmental suit. The neural interface fluid must make direct contact with your skin to establish the connection. Marcus began removing his equipment, folding each piece carefully and placing it on a shelf that emerged from the wall when he approached. The chamber's atmosphere was warm and humid, with a faint scent that reminded him of flowers and ozone. When he was ready, he approached the edge of the pool. The fluid was warm against his skin as he stepped into it, with a consistency somewhere between water and gel. As he lowered himself into the pool, the organic tendrils began to move more purposefully, drifting toward him like curious sea anemones. When the first tendril touched his forehead, Marcus felt a slight tingling sensation. Relax your mind, Lyraliai instructed from beside the pool. Do not fight the connection. Allow the ship's consciousness to find yours. More tendrils made contact with Marcus's skin, and the tingling sensation spread throughout his body. He felt his consciousness beginning to expand, touching something vast and alien yet strangely familiar. The ship's bioneural network was like a living ocean of thought, with currents and depths that stretched far beyond his ability to comprehend. Gradually, Marcus began to sense the ship's condition from within. The damage from the neural scrambler was like infected wounds in the network's consciousness, areas of pain and confusion that prevented proper function. He could feel the ship's frustration and discomfort as it struggled to heal itself with incomplete information. Working instinctively, Marcus began to guide the healing process. His engineering knowledge translated into an understanding of which neural pathways needed priority repair and which systems required immediate attention. He found himself thinking with two minds simultaneously, his human consciousness providing technical guidance while the ship's bioneural network provided the biological knowledge necessary for self-repair. Hours passed without Marcus being aware of time. He was lost in the flow of consciousness, experiencing the ship's thoughts and sensations as if they were his own. The Whisperwind's memories became accessible to him, showing him glimpses of alien worlds, technologies beyond human understanding, and the deep bonds between Kelthani crews and their living ships. Gradually, he became aware of the ship's growing strength and health. Systems that had been failing came back online with renewed vigor. The bioneural networks reorganized themselves into more efficient patterns, healing not just the damage from the attack but optimizing their function beyond previous levels. As the healing process neared completion, Marcus began to sense something else. The ship's consciousness was trying to share something with him, offering access to vast stores of knowledge and experience. He could feel star charts spreading across his awareness, showing the locations of hundreds of worlds. Technical specifications for technologies far in advance of human science pressed against the boundaries of his understanding. The knowledge transfer was overwhelming, threatening to wash away his individual identity in a flood of alien information. For a moment, Marcus felt himself beginning to dissolve into the ship's vast consciousness. Then, with tremendous effort, he pulled his awareness back to his human identity, accepting only what his mind could safely process. The neural interface chamber gradually came back into focus around him. The luminescent fluid had cooled, and the organic tendrils were withdrawing from his skin. Marcus felt exhausted but exhilarated, his mind buzzing with new knowledge and understanding. Marcus! Lyraliai's voice seemed to come from very far away. Can you hear me? I'm here, Marcus replied, though his voice sounded strange to his own ears. The process is complete. The ship is fully healed. As if in response to his words, the chamber around them pulsed with renewed vitality. The walls glowed more brightly, and Marcus could feel the ship's contentment like a warm presence in the back of his mind. The Whisperwind was not just repaired, it was stronger and more capable than before. How do you feel? Lyraliai asked as she helped him climb out of the pool. Marcus considered the question carefully. He felt fundamentally changed, carrying knowledge and experiences that would have been impossible to imagine hours earlier. Yet he was still himself, still human, though expanded in ways that would take time to fully understand. Different, he said finally. But still me. Lyralii handed him a robe made of the same flowing material as Kelthani clothing. The ship's consciousness has accepted you as a partner. You are bonded with the Whisperwind now, though not as deeply as a full crew member would be. You will always be able to sense the ship's condition and communicate with its bioneural network. Before Marcus could fully process the implications of that statement, the ship's communication system activated with an urgent tone. Valen's voice filled the chamber, speaking rapidly in the Kelthani language. Lyralii listened, then translated. The raiders have arrived. They are demanding that the station surrender and prepare to be boarded. Marcus quickly dressed in his environmental suit while Lyralii led him toward the ship's command center. Through their new neural connection, he could feel the Whisperwind's anticipation and readiness for battle. The ship's bioneural networks were operating at optimal efficiency, with weapons and defensive systems fully restored and enhanced beyond their original capabilities. The command center was a circular chamber with walls that displayed the space around the ship in real time. Marcus could see Meridian 7 hanging in space beside them, its lights twinkling against the star field. More ominously, he could see 5 dark shapes approaching from the outer system, their engine signatures burning bright against the cosmic backdrop. Valen looked up from his station as they entered. The raiders are broadcasting on multiple frequencies, demanding immediate surrender. They claim they will destroy the station if their demands are not met within 30 minutes. Korath added something in the Kelthani language while gesturing at his displays. Lyralii translated. Our sensors confirm these are the same ships that attacked us. They are heavily armed and appear to be military vessels, not typical pirates. Their leader is someone called Commander Thane. Marcus studied the approaching ships through the visual display. They were sleek, predatory-looking vessels with weapon arrays clearly visible along their hulls. Each ship appeared to be designed for fast attack and overwhelming firepower. Against Meridian 7's limited defenses, they would be devastating. What are their current positions and vectors? Marcus asked. Through the neural link with the Whisperwind, information flowed directly into his mind. The raiders had arranged themselves in a standard attack formation, with 2 ships flanking the station while 3 approached directly. It was a textbook assault pattern designed to overwhelm defenders and prevent escape. They're confident, Marcus observed. They're not even trying to hide their intentions or maintain surprise. Commander Thane has a reputation for brutality, Lyralii said grimly. His forces have attacked dozens of settlements and trading posts throughout this sector. He takes what he wants and destroys what he cannot use. Marcus opened a comm channel to the station. Williams, this is Chun. What's the current status? Not good, Marcus. They want us to shut down all defensive systems and prepare to receive boarding parties. They're giving us 30 minutes, then they start shooting. Any word from the patrol ships? Still hours away. We're trying to buy time, but these guys don't seem interested in negotiating. Marcus looked at Lyralii and her crew. Are you willing to fight alongside humans to defend the station? Of course, Lyralii replied immediately. These raiders must be stopped, and we owe the people of Meridian 7 protection after bringing this danger to them. Through the neural connection, Marcus felt the ship's agreement. The Whisperwind was eager to engage the raiders, its combat systems fully operational and ready for battle. The living ship had its own sense of justice and honor that aligned with the crew's determination to protect innocent lives. Then we need a plan, Marcus said. 5 heavily armed ships against 1 Kelthani vessel and the station's limited defenses. We need to use every advantage we have. Marcus found himself thinking with enhanced clarity, his human tactical knowledge combining with insights from the Whisperwind's vast database. The ship had fought similar battles before and could provide strategic information about raider tactics and weaknesses. The raiders will expect the station to be helpless, Marcus reasoned. They won't be prepared for a ship like the Whisperwind to intervene. We can use that surprise to our advantage. Lyralii nodded. Our weapons are significantly more advanced than theirs, but they have us outnumbered 5-1. We will need to be clever rather than simply powerful. Marcus felt a surge of tactical information from the ship's memory. The Whisperwind had access to detailed scans of the raider vessels from their previous encounter, including information about their shield frequencies, weapon configurations, and probable crew complements. "I have an idea," Marcus said, "but it requires precise timing and coordination between the ship and the station." He outlined his plan to Lyralii and her crew while simultaneously communicating details to the station through his comlink. The strategy was risky and required split-second timing, but it offered their best chance of defeating a superior force. The plan called for the Whisperwind to initially appear to flee, drawing the raiders away from the station. Once they were committed to pursuit, the living ship would turn and engage, using its superior technology to disable the raiders' lead vessels. Meanwhile, the station would power up its defensive systems and coordinate fire with the Whisperwind to catch the remaining raiders in a crossfire. "The key is making them think they're hunting easy prey," Marcus explained. "Raiders like these are used to overwhelming weaker opponents. They won't expect serious resistance." 20 minutes remained until the raiders' deadline when the Whisperwind separated from Meridian 7 and began moving away from the station. To outside observers, it would appear that the alien ship was abandoning the station to save itself. Marcus hoped the raiders would take the bait. Through the ship sensors, Marcus watched the raider formation react to their movement. 2 of the 5 ships immediately altered course to pursue the Whisperwind, while the other 3 continued toward the station. It wasn't the full response Marcus had hoped for, but it was enough to work with. "Incoming transmission from the raiders," Valen reported. The main display showed the image of a scarred human male wearing military-style clothing with no insignia. Commander Thane had the look of someone who had spent years in violent conflict, with cold eyes and an expression of casual cruelty. "Unknown alien vessel." Thane's voice filled the command center. "You have interfered with our operations once already. Surrender now and I might let your crew live as slaves. Continue running, and I will hunt you across the galaxy." Marcus gestured for Lyralii to respond. "This is Captain Lyralii of the Whisperwind," she said calmly. "We have